Hi, my name is Violet Fitzgerald, and I'm a sophomore in construction engineering and management. And last summer, I had the opportunity to work with J.E. Dunn Construction in Nashville in their pre-construction department. So before this internship, I really had no experience at all in the construction industry. None of my parents were in construction, and I had really never had any experience with it at all before. So I have compiled a list for you of all the words that I had to look up over the summer. As you can see, there's a lot, but I feel like this just really shows how much I've already learned throughout the summer and how much more I continue to have to learn. For example, my manager was looking at this slide because I was doing my final presentation for the summer, and she was like, "Oh, great, great, yeah, this looks good. Now, what's corn shell?" And I was like, "Oh, a corn shell building, like when you build the outside of it, but you don't build the inside, and you let like tenants come in and they build it." And she was like, "Violet, that's not a corn shell building. That is a core and shell building." And I was like, "Oh, great, wonderful, thank you so much." So I had spent my entire summer thinking that all these office buildings were called corn shell buildings instead of core and shell buildings. And a project manager got a hold of it and just heard about it, and he made me this wonderful graphic depicting what a corn shell office building really is. And I was like, "Thank you, Sam, very helpful." But I just feel like it shows like the relationship that I got to have with all these wonderful people who I worked with. And I still get emails from them being like, "Oh, can't wait to have you back on the corn shell. Very excited to start the corn shell." And so it was just a really great experience with them. And it just teaches how much more you still have to learn. So most of my summer I spent in pre-construction and estimating, but I did get to spend a couple days shadowing superintendents and project managers, which I will touch on later. But as for pre-construction, I did a lot of quantity takeoffs for flooring, hardware, doors, wall base, countertops, appliances, that sort of stuff. And I worked on a multifamily residential building and a core and shell office building. And so I also got to look at a lot of Revit for the multifamily building, which was really interesting to see the application of it because I had never really learned anything about Revit before. And then I also got to sit in on a lot of meetings with the owners and the architects, which was really interesting. And I got to help deliver the SD budget for the project. So it was really cool to see everything that went into that and how much hard work it was, and see all the components finally come together to give to the owner and the architect. I also completed scope sheets, which is where I took all the proposals made by the trade partners and compared all their numbers, and you got to see who included what and what they maybe didn't include. And for example, you could call up trade partner A and be like, "Hey, I noticed that your number is a lot lower than some of the other trade partners that are bidding this project. I was just wondering, did you include this scope? Did you maybe forget that, or have you included it in something else?" And so then that way you get full lists of what everyone has and everyone's completed scopes. As for project management, I shadowed 2 different project managers, and I learned about RFIs, submittals, self-perform. J.E. Dunn actually has just recently started doing their own self-perform drywall in Nashville, so I got to shadow a project manager who does like all the estimating and pre-con for that as well. So it was really interesting to see, the pre-construction and estimating for one specific scope and how different that was versus doing pre-construction for the entire project. And so that was something really cool that I got to see while I was shadowing her. I also learned about punch lists, and I got to sit in on a site page turn and lean meetings and trade partner meetings as well. And then I got to spend a couple days shadowing a superintendent where we learned about pull plans and rebar, safety, scheduling, and a new prescient system, which is a structural system that is prefabbed where you don't have to use as much concrete. So that was interesting as well. I would say that my greatest triumph was probably doing concrete and rebar takeoff. It just ended up being a giant spreadsheet, and it was very difficult for me to do. I spent a lot of my time, asking everyone else on the project team how they would have gone about this or how they would have thought about doing the takeoff for this part. And it was just really satisfying in the end to submit a completed takeoff for that. One of my managers told me that if you can do rebar and concrete takeoff, you can do any sorts of takeoff. So it just made me feel really accomplished when I finally had completed that. I would say that my biggest challenge was the amount of information that I was taking in, especially not having any experience. It was just a lot all at once, all the acronyms and terms, and, how do you do this, how do you do that, basic stuff that I learned very quickly. I would also say that I lacked a lot of confidence going into this summer. I was afraid to ask questions and afraid to seem like I didn't know something, but that is something that I feel like has also become my greatest triumph, because I did gain that confidence, and I did gain the ability, to ask questions and realize that these people are there to help you and to help you learn, and they aren't going to make fun of you or anything. So that was probably my greatest challenge and one of my greatest accomplishments as well. So yeah, overall, I just had an amazing summer. Most of these pictures are with the other interns with the company that were in Nashville as well. We actually got to go and tour like all the other sites that they were on. So it was cool to see from a pre-construction mindset their projects, and then see the things that they had been doing as well. And then I also got to spend some time with some of our alumni in Nashville, which was also a really good time. And then there's a picture of me with my pre-construction team on the last day of my work. Overall, I had a really great summer, and I learned that construction is really where I belong and something that I really want to do for the rest of my life. And I don't think I would have known that without this internship. So yeah, I had a really great summer, and I'm excited to see where next summer takes me. Thank you so much.